Hello, I'm Chef John Folse. Food is so much more than nutrition here in the South. Every weekend on Louisiana's back roads and bayous, our festivals celebrate the food, music, and cultures that make us unique. Why not join me as we visit the fairs and festivals of our state and cook up another great taste of Louisiana?
Funding for this program is provided by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism. Vieux Carré, Zydeco, Atchafalaya, Natchitoches. In Louisiana, you'll say things you've never seen before.
Traveling along South Louisiana's bayous, you're sure to encounter a festival every weekend. And this weekend, I'm visiting one of my favorites. The Louisiana Catfish Festival is held in Des Allemands, Louisiana, better known to many of us as the catfish capital of the universe. This Cajun community is located in the heart of bayou country, and that becomes quickly evident by the sight of gigantic fishing nets and roadside advertisement for exotic seafoods for sale. This celebration is held on the grounds of St. Gertrude Catholic Church and begins with the blessing of the cooks by Father Ed Grice, the parish priest, early on the morning of opening day. And boy, wow, what foods at this festival created at the hands of these Cajun master chefs. Although I can't begin to mention all of the varieties here this weekend, most will include catfish in one version or another. Here, fingerling-sized catfish are breaded in Cajun batter prior to deep frying. When golden brown, the fish are drained and are now ready to be stuffed, or I should say overstuffed, into these huge Catfish Po'boys. People line up real early in the morning to get their hands on one of these traditional bayou classics. Just take a look at those. The sisters who work and teach here in the parish also take part in this celebration by serving one of the most sought-after dishes at the festival, Cajun white beans on rice. These navy beans are slowly cooked and flavored with smoky Louisiana sausage and ham. One of the highlights of the Catfish Festival is the cooking contest. Many of Louisiana's best cooks come from this area, and if there's one festival that I would hate to be a judge at, it's this one because the flavors are all oh so good. Entries today include catfish boat po'boys, omelets, chowders, and there's even one dish named after Carmen Miranda because it's surrounded by fruit. Well, every contest needs a winner, and once pictures are done, this beautiful trophy is taken home for safekeeping. Louisiana festivals are truly family events, and there's games of all types for the children. Naturally, here in bayou country, and especially at the Catfish Festival, a game testing one's ability to fish, well, that seems appropriate here, but watch out. You know, these kids start fishing at an early age. So this game may not be very much of a challenge. They may want to just walk down the midway and try one of those more complicated sports. For those of us who grew up in the swamplands of Louisiana or near some winding bayou, the water lily pod, or grain à valer, translated from French that means stolen grain, is a common sight. I'll tell you about that later. Many people have seen the water lily blossom into that magnolia-like flower, but very few people realize that the nut or seed is edible and is often used in Cajun stews and gumbos. It tastes a little bit like water chestnuts. For you who imagine the bayous to be dark, dreary, or mystical, just imagine this scene that you're sure to encounter as you drive down Louisiana's back roads to the Catfish Festival. Grain à valer, boy, I tell you, does that bring back great memories. That's the stolen grain from the, as you heard, the lily pods. That grain is actually dried in the sun, and then we use it like a peanuts or, you know, any of those type of things that you would think of today as a fun food. But the greatest thing about the grain à valer is that most people think that that's what brought the ducks and the geese and all of the wildlife to Louisiana very early on to give the Cajuns and Creoles some really good food for the winter. So we credit those little pods for all of the wild game that we have coming into the swamplands of Louisiana. You know, we're doing the Catfish Festival today, and I tell you, I don't know why catfish has such a bad reputation all around the country when it's so prized here in the 7 or 8 southern states. I remember about 10 or 15 years ago, in fact, you couldn't even give catfish away, but thanks to good marketing and farm raising of catfish, today we find that catfish is the 3rd most used fin fish in America, right behind flounder and cod. So that's saying a lot about catfish. But I think most often people think of it as a soul food, or people think of it as just fried with hush puppies, which we think is a delicacy here in Louisiana. But the fried catfish, I guess with everybody thinking about fats and all of those things, but versatility is the key to catfish today. With the nice fillets, you can broil them, you can grill them, you can saute them, you can make a soup out of it. I don't have to tell you any more about it. It is a great dish, and I tell you, you should fall in love with catfish the way we have here in the South. Let's take a look at this nice platter of catfish. Here you see, I think this is probably why catfish has a bad reputation. It's not the best looking fish in the whole, but I mean, how many people buy catfish in the whole? Most of the time, the blue channel cat is either filleted like, clean like this, and the head, of course, cut off, and they're fried whole, which is a real delicacy here. This is the way you would buy it in most of your stores, just a nice fillet. This is about an 8-ounce fillet, perfect for the grill. This right here, we're going to cook a little bit later. These are the nice little medallions almost of catfish. They're cut at an angle, and they're perfect for po' and we're going to do a po'. And then this here is the, oh boy, these are great. This is the beignets. We cook these with a nice crispy batter and eat it with a ketchup or one of those dipping sauces. Here are the catfish fingers, very popular, and then the little diced catfish that we're going to use for our soup today. So that's all of the different types of catfish that we cut up and work with as we cook in our kitchens. Now, the first thing I want to do for you is a catfish chowder using all of the great vegetables of Louisiana cooking. So I'm going to start off by putting a little buttery flavored oil down into my black iron pot. I'm going to kind of kick that fire up a little bit. And naturally, the way we do with most dishes in Louisiana, we're going to start off with a little onions, celery, bell pepper. And as you know, I'm always saying never worry about the things I put into a pot. Always put whatever you like, but these are the good basics of Louisiana cooking. A little red bell pepper, because this is a cream-based soup, so we want to make sure that all of those good colors are put right down into the pot to give that cream soup a much, much nicer look. Once all of this sautés for just a second or so, of course I have to put my good garlic. I think garlic is great for you. It's good for the circulatory system too. It's kind of like red wine. You want to have a little bit of that. It makes you live longer. So saute a little bit of this in. And oh boy, I tell you, I wish you could smell all of these great flavors coming out of the pot. Now what I'm going to do is put some corn, because this is a chowder. And most often chowders have some type of potatoes or vegetables. In this particular case, we're using all of the great flavors of Louisiana cooking. I'm putting the corn in. And once the corn flavor develops for just a second, I'm going to now put in some of my diced or cubed catfish. You can see how tiny the cubes are. They're about ½ inch, I guess. And I'm going to put about half of them down in the pot because I want to sacrifice them. As you know, I like to sacrifice some of that seafood flavor to the pot. So I'm going to stir that around for just a second. And then I'll go ahead and make my roux. Now this is, again, this is the blonde roux or the white roux of Creole cooking. So I'm going to put just a couple spoons of it in here just to kind of thicken the sauce, because I'm also putting some really nice cream-style corn, which is going to definitely give this chowder a nice creamy look. So I don't need to put too much starch down in here, too much flour, but just blend it in to pick up all of that butter that's down there. And then I'll add a little bit of stock. Now this is fish stock. I've just made a little fish stock with some of the catfish, some of the bones of that filleted catfish earlier today, and this is going to give the sauce a really nice seafood flavor. So you definitely want to make a stock. Don't throw away those really nice fish bones. Make a good stock with it. Onions, a little garlic, a little bay leaf, those kind of things. So I'll tell you that around. Look how nice and creamy it becomes real, real quick. Now I can add a little cream, talking about creamy. This is a cream-based soup, so what we have here is a velouté, and I'm going to add a little cream to it to kind of give it that nice creamy look. How nice that is. And look at the colors. You see how the colors show through in the soup. Once that's in, Then I can put the rest of my good vegetables. I'm going to put the cream-style corn, and I would allow this to cook for about 20, 25, 30 minutes. I wouldn't quickly serve this. I would let that cream-style corn and all of these wonderful flavors come together. And once they come together, then, of course, I would go ahead and finish the soup. So let's assume now that this is cooked for about 30 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and finish it by adding, look at these nice colors I'm going to put into the pot here. I'm putting in the red kidney beans, and these are out of the can, and lima beans. They're already cooked, so you don't need to cook them anymore. You just want to add them to the soup for color and flavor. Then I'm going to add the rest of my nice catfish, and this only cooks in about a minute or so because it's such small cubes. And then, of course, I can add the rest of my flavors, my peppers, my spice, whatever I want. I'm going to add a little bit more stock because this is so beautiful. This is really nice and creamy if you look in this pot. Really, really nice. Now I'll season with a little salt, a little pepper. Again, let your imagination run wild here. Just add your pepper. You can add a little touch of salt. And then whatever herbs. I like to put some of the things. I like to put like dill in here. Dill's real nice. Always a little thyme, a little basil. Works really well. And then finish it with parsley and green onions. Just throw a little bit parsley, a little bit green onions down into it, and just let this simmer for a second, and then the fish ought to be done by now because it cooks so quickly. So now let me show you how I would serve this up, because this is really a pretty dish, and you should choose just the right tureen or just the right soup bowl for that. So I want to show you this. Take a look at this little tureen I have here. I found this in an antique store, and you ought to go out and look for some of these things as you're traveling around. You'll find these nice little platters or nice little tureens, soup bowls, hanging around, sometimes at a very cheap price. And I'm going to fill this up with my soup and just give you an idea of what it looks like all plated up. Look at here with those colors. Can you believe that? All of these beautiful colors come together very quickly. And don't only use this as a soup. Think about this in patty shells or in one of those other things. I think you get the general idea here. And then garnish it right at the table with a little bit cheese, which will really add to the finished flavor. And then, of course, some of those nice colors. So put some pretty colors on top of it. Makes a magnificent dish. And, of course, bring it to the table in this beautiful tureen. You're going to get a lot of oohs and ahs out of this dish. Okay, now that let me get this out of the way, because I have a special, really special dish for you at this point. And this dish is kind of different, but I think you're going to really enjoy the preparation, and certainly it's something that's going to give you an idea for a Sunday morning or whenever you have a brunch or somebody coming over to the house unexpectedly. This is a really nice dish that you can throw together quickly. It's the Spanish Town Catfish Omelet. And let me tell you how we're going to make this. I'm going to begin, again, by putting a little bit buttery flavored oil into my skillet. And in fact, I'm going to put a little buttery flavored oil into 2 skillets because I'm going to start that cooking process off while I whip the eggs. And I'm going to whip the eggs here. I have 3 eggs in my real, again, colorful bowl, as you can see, very colorful. And I'm going to put a little cream down into it, a little bit cream. And, of course, you can eliminate the cream if you want to cut back some of the fats. But I really like to add cream to my omelets. And then I'm going to put a little, oh, boy, this is really nice and spicy here. This is chili powder, and it's going to give it the Spanish Town look. And, of course, some jalapenos and red pepper, because this is a little spicy omelet. So you want all those nice colors in there. And then, of course, whisk all of that around. And I can season. I can put a little bit hot sauce, a little pepper sauce. And, of course, I can put some of the other colors. I can put all of those nice things in. Once that's all in, then, of course, I'll take that over to my saute pan, which is kind of warm. You don't want to have, by the way, too much oil in here either. It's not necessary to have too much. Just coat the bottom of your omelet pan real nicely. Otherwise, you're going to have too much fat. And then you just go ahead and pour that omelet right down into the pan and just let it start to cook away right there while you do the filling. Now, I'm going to just kind of let that play around a little bit. I can kind of move the omelet around. You want to definitely get the egg going into the bottom of the pan while you cook your filling, which is right next to it. So I'm going to throw in this other little skillet some onions, real nice, celery, bell pepper, all the traditional flavors again. I'm going to put some color in here. And then I'll add a little bit fresh tomato. This is a Spanish omelet, remember, so you want those pretty colors. I'm going to put some tasso ham, which is the Cajun spicy ham of Louisiana. And I'm going to work that omelet again, just kind of move those eggs around in there like that. Really, really nice. Just kind of get that omelet working. And once the tasso ham goes into my skillet like this, then I can start to add a little bit of the fish. I'm going to put some of the catfish down in there. I'm making the filling for the omelet. And of course, again, please let your imagination go bananas here, because you can add whatever you want into this. I'm going to come back and add a little touch of garlic, naturally. Got to have some garlic in there. And then a little bit tomato sauce for color. And I would let this simmer for a little while. Of course, I want to definitely go ahead and season it with some of the herbs and spices that I have around. I can put some basil, thyme, a little oregano down in here. And again, season this nicely with salt and pepper. Just put a little spice down into it. And then let that saute for just a second and move that omelet around again just a little bit. You want to get all that egg cooking really nicely there. But you want the omelet to stay whole. So just kind of move that shell around just like that. You can see how it's cooking nicely. And then, now that all of my flavors are cooked together here, I can spoon a nice spoon of the catfish and all of that right down into the center of the omelet like that. Of course, I have enough here for about 2 or 3 omelets. I'll move it to the fire here where I can work it a little bit easier. Kind of kick that fire up and just move this around a little bit to make sure you have that good flavor there. Finish it with a little cheese. Got to have some cheese in there. Who'd make an omelet without cheese, right? A little green onions for color, like that. And then the trick to a good omelet, of course, is to turn it over right down the center so that you can have that good flip. But you see, it'll move pretty easily here. So you just want to kind of get it moving to the front of the pan. And be careful, you don't have to worry about, if you have a good Teflon coated skillet, by the way, it's going to really flip very easily. But just use 2 spoons like this and just kind of take it and flip it over like that. Just kind of flip it, move it to the center of the pan, and just let it finish right there for just a second. And then you can kind of swirl it around a little bit. And when you're ready to serve it, I'm going to put it on this really nice little platter here. Just kind of put it down. This is a family omelet. This is one for, what, about 2 people, I guess, or one good hungry Cajun. And you see how nice and brown it is. It's got all those great spices with the andouille and the ham and all that other nice stuff right down in the center of it. Really a pretty good dish and an easy dish to do as well. And just go ahead and garnish that however you would like, again, with some of those pretty colors around the edge of the plate. And I always come back and put cheese right on top of the center of it like this. So that's the way I put that good omelet together. And then I want to show you 1 or 2 other little dishes that I picked up at the festival. So let's take a look at my counter here. The first I have is a really nice catfish terrine, really wonderful terrine. That's all colored with the peppers and everything else. It's really wonderful, and it has smoked catfish and crawfish in it. So very easy. And by the way, it's a terrine that's held together with aspic, so it's really easy to do. Look at that nice platter again. Another good example of something to put it on. And then here is my really good turbans of catfish. These catfish are actually stuffed with a little crawfish. They're stuffed with a little tasso and andouille, those 2 really nice flavors of Louisiana. And then we've made a little sauce here. But I tell you what, if you want to think about making an easy sauce at home, just go ahead and you're in a rush, just go ahead and open up a can of cream of tomato soup, broccoli soup, any of those things, puree it, put a little water or milk into it, and go ahead and put it around a plate. I guarantee you very few people will know that it's a fast soup that you just put together in 2 minutes. So anyway, that's the dishes that I wanted to show you now. Let me tell you about my guest. I didn't even mention him at the top of the show because he is so special to me. I want y'all to see his face before I introduce him. Chef Beany MacGregor. He's from Louisiana. He is executive chef of Planet Hollywood, one of the largest companies in the country. He and I have been cooking together for years and years, and he is one of my closest friends, not only in cooking, but just a great friend. Let me have that hand. How you doing?
Good to see you.
Great. Boy, you've been all over the world, hadn't you? You've been traveling so much. You've been just coming back from New York?
Last night, yep.
Boy, I tell you, if I had a job like that, you know.
You want it? I love it.
Well, it's great to see you again. I tell you, the last time you and I were together was at Mittendorf. Remember, we went to get that nice, flat, nice catfish. And I wanted to share with all of them that Mittendorf's restaurant is a really fine restaurant out of New Orleans. And they're famous for their catfish, real thin slice. And I wanted to show them how they did that, because you and I ate it, and we talked about it the other day. Camp style, I call it.
With the ice water.
With the ice water, you've got a great memory.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got a good memory. So what we have here, if you look at our bowl, we have very thin pieces of catfish. Tell them about that, Beany.
Okay, what we have here is obviously ice water. The real thin fillets of catfish, like John was saying, it's cut on the bias, on the angle. We've got it seasoned with salt and pepper, and we're going to batter it in this seasoned corn flour here.
And just go ahead and put it right down in there. Now that corn flour is seasoned with salt and pepper and all those great things, and it's going to make it. The ice water makes it real good and crispy.
Yeah, it gets the fish firm before you do it. And this is tough to find everywhere else in the United States, this corn flour. I got to take it with me.
You can use cornmeal, though. This is really good.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're just going to put a couple in there. And Beany, I think they get the general idea here. I'm going to let this fry for just a second. Why don't you go ahead and put that po' together while I go wash my hands here.
All righty. Okay, while we got the fish frying, we're going to put this po' together. Right here we've got some tartar sauce. A lot of people might butter the bread first, grill it off a little bit. I prefer the tartar sauce. We just spread this on here. We've got some catfish here that we've already cooked. We've got this going.
We can use that one right there, Beany.
All righty. Okay.
Put some of that hot one right here. But
ooh, let's put that one.
Put that hot one on there.
Yeah.
Boy, there's some different batters in Louisiana for fish.
I tell you, you've got beer batters. Like you said, you've got just seasoned flour. You've got corn flour, tempura style. Now, we're going to put this together here. This is a little trick we used to do in the restaurant, and see if we can do it without making a mess.
Just flip it over there.
Flipping it over.
Good.
Okay.
Well, we can put that together and we'll slice it in half and we'll eat that a little bit later there. Great. That's a catfish po'boy. Sit down, we'll talk a little bit. Beany, what brought you, we always talk about chefs getting into the industry. What brought you into this business anyway?
A bunch of stuff. Growing up in Louisiana, I love food. My mom's a great cook. Both my grandmothers were. I didn't even ever tell you this. My great-grandfather used to own a restaurant. His nickname was Turtle Soup Guidry. And I just enjoyed it. And worked a lot with my mom in the kitchen. One of the worst burns I ever got was doing jambalaya with the steam. Yeah. So anyway, went on to school, working my way through school, got a job at a restaurant, and
here you are.
Went on from there.
You know, you've traveled all over the world. I know not only with Planet Hollywood, but even with your company before that. What, in your opinion, sets Louisiana cooking apart?
Oh, geez. I've been all over and seen it all. It's the passion, the natural ingredients. We've got stuff here that you can't find anywhere else in the world. And, you know, you bump into somebody on the street, it's not, hey, how you doing? Where are you going to dinner? What'd you have for lunch? Tonight? Right. And it's a way of life. You know?
Now I mentioned Planet Hollywood, one of the most, certainly one of the best-known restaurant chains in the country. Everybody reads about it, hears about it all the time. How would you describe the food there?
I would call it fun food. We do a lot of different types of food. We've got elements of Italian, Chinese, Mexican, American, but we do it with a little bit different twist. Like we've got a dish called Cajun egg rolls, where we combine a little Cajun and a little Chinese, and we do some different things with it.
What if you had to say the most exciting thing about working for a company with such a high profile? What would be just one thing, the most exciting thing?
That's a tough one, but I think it's the people you meet. I go all over the world. You mentioned the name Planet Hollywood. They take you into the kitchens. They serve you the best food. You meet the stars, the partners. It's exciting.
What about the stars? Did they ever take part in designing the menu? Or?
Oh, yeah. We get their input. We've got Arnold Schwarzenegger's mom's recipe for apple strudel. They love to eat. You see them all bulked up and trimmed down, but they love the food.
Well, Beany, I've been in the restaurant often. Every time you come to New Orleans, you invite me to come over, so I'm going to see you back there. Thank you so much for coming into the kitchen and visiting, and thank you all for stopping by as we visit the fairs and festivals, and come back again as we continue to cook up more great Taste of Louisiana. Here, you want to split that po'boy in half here?
Funding for this program is provided by the Louisiana Department of Culture, Recreation, and Tourism. Vieux Carré, Zydeco, Atchafalaya, Natchitoches. In Louisiana, you'll say things you've never seen before.
More information on events in Louisiana can be yours at no cost. Call 1-800-36-GUMBO for your free Louisiana tour guide listing festivals, attractions, and points of interest throughout the Bayou State. Chef John Folse's Louisiana Sampler, a companion cookbook to this series, contains the colorful history and culinary secrets behind Louisiana's most exciting festivals. For your copy, send a check or money order for $19.95 to Louisiana Public Broadcasting. Or use your credit card by calling toll-free 1-800-973-7246.